I think it's on your side.
All
Oh,
right, we're on
yep.
Facebook. Hey, Facebook.
Okay, hey, we're live. That's awesome. That's great.
Woo!
Um, so, Facebook. Let me get it started and introduce it, and then I'm excited about this. So, I'm Jim Duffy, Atlantic Coast Mortgage, and I have a team of experts which are superb, just outstanding realtors in the market who have all been through, all of us really have been through a market shift before. And I think that's the interesting thing, the fun thing. And the thing to talk about, because we're in a changing market. We can all feel that right now, I think. And, um, and Karen, I'll help you with your thing in a minute as well. But we're in a shifting, changing market. And I've talked to a lot of newer agents who have only experienced an up market. They've never experienced a shifting or a down market or a shift like we're starting to see. And I've talked to a lot who are just a little worried that what's the future hold? How do I do this? What do I do next? So I'd love to hear, first of all, from each of you, and Lisa, if you want to go first, perhaps, what you're seeing in the market, some real stats. Susan, you feel free to jump in as well. Some real stats that you're seeing in the market, because let's get the real numbers first, and then talk about the shift that you made back at the last market turn.
So I didn't get a lot of chance to do a bunch of extra research today, honestly.
It was your
but
birthday yesterday.
It was my birthday last night. We're still kind of celebrating it. So I'm just taking a break from the pool here down at Hilton Head Island Motor Coach Resort. But I do subscribe to Doug Holmes, the stats guy, who basically sends out a weekly report of what's gone under contract, where the sales are, and what's happening. And the last 3 weeks in a row, we've had record numbers of properties going under contract. So what that tells me is that people are still buying homes. I'm personally seeing a lot more deals that are maybe falling through for stuff that is unavoidable, like the person got laid off, so I've had a couple things fall through for that, and then some in due diligence because they just didn't look at a bunch of things first. They kind of got the contract and then decided on the house, almost, maybe, I guess, if that's sort of the way to explain it.
Yeah.
So despite all of the things that we're not supposed to be able to really be doing, people are still buying homes, and I'm getting multiple offers on listings because the inventory is so low. So
particularly if they're in close and and priced, like usually that 300, 315 below, like on James Island or
it depends on where it is. Yeah. Like I saw an agent that did an open house last week in one of our private Facebook groups. She said it was a $200,000 price point. She said she had about 45 people show up for her open house and was negotiating multiple offers on it. So
that's impressive.
There's buyers that are very serious, and they have time right now.
Right.
They have a lot more flexibility in their schedule if they're working from home. And like, I don't experience, at least my buyers, like wanting to see a whole bunch of houses. Like normally they'd be like, oh, let's just go see that one. And now they're like very serious. I've seen the thing. So everybody that comes for a showing is like a very serious buyer. That's what I've seen.
That's
And
good.
for the agents that are out there really wondering, I mean, Lisa mentioned it, but they're almost 500 homes went under contract last week, and like 489 the week before. We had not even hit 450 except for twice in the last 15 years ever, but we've been tracking it for 15 years. Never hit 450, and 2 weeks in a row we broke the record. So 489, 496. I mean, that's huge.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Only 35 of them were new construction too. So, I mean, I know the new construction is out there hitting it hard, but a lot of them are resales. And Lisa, I'm with you. There were a couple weeks there where I think the multiple offers were down and I wasn't seeing as much of them, but that is now back in the last 2 weeks for me up here. And I'm in the Somerville area. So we're different.
And I work with a lot of investors, and I mean, trying to get them to explain to them, like, there's already 10 offers on this deal. Like, you're not going to be able to go in and lowball it or whatever. There's people out there buying for sure. Like, we've had like 6 different properties that we've been just trying to get for this one investor, and he's missed out on basically all of them. You know,
And
and I'm like,
think
it's
some
not
of
like nobody's buying right now. Don't.
I think your point about it's not the time to lowball is a very valid one. I think people thought that it would be. I have a client that I've had this discussion with over and over about, well, I think people are going to be losing their jobs. I think, but the reality is, while obviously the economy does have some shaky parts, there's still enough demand in our area and a real lack of housing at different price, at the lower, particularly the lower price points, that you're not going to see that in those markets. You're going to see things go if the house is in good shape and has been priced well. It's going to go. It's not the time to bargain.
I agree
Yeah.
completely.
I agree completely too. But I think some of the people are thinking back to what it was like in 2008 and are expecting that again, and we're not going to see that.
That's what
I don't think we'll see that as
You're
well.
right.
By the way,
You know-
let me do a quick introduction because I forgot to introduce everyone to everyone who's watching. So Lisa is with View Properties, broker in charge, sells a ton of homes. Susan is with Flowertown Homes, broker in charge, sells a ton of homes. And Karen, who you can't see on Facebook for some reason, I'm trying to fix that. Oh, I think I know how. No, I don't. But Karen is with Keller Williams, also a very top producer. And Chemo is running late. He said he's going to jump on any time here, and he's with Coldwell Banker. So when he jumps on, you'll see him as well.
I could be the masked realtor.
Yes, you're the secret realtor, but I can't seem to get the video to start. So going back to, I agree with you. The forbearance thing is not as much a problem as we thought it might be at first. It's not at all. When someone's out of forbearance, they make 3 payments on time and then they're good to buy again, refinance, do whatever they need to. And the foreclosure, I don't think foreclosures are going to be a big thing at all. And unless this furlough thing takes some.
Well, I think that we're going to see an uptick in REO property at the end of next year from all of this.
You do?
It's
Okay.
not. That's how long it's going to take before any of that, where we even feel the effects of that.
Lisa, I think that might be, I don't know if that's going to be our market as much as some of the other markets, though. Do you think our market's going to see that?
Yes, we're still going to get an uprise in REO. I mean, there's no way around it because there's definitely people that are losing their jobs and that are losing their homes. And right now they're getting unemployment. And they're not foreclosing on anybody. And in South Carolina, it takes 6 months at the very fastest to foreclose on anybody. So I really don't think that we'll feel any of that until for about 18 months. And that's when it's going to be like, okay, I really just can't get back on track. I did really lose my job. I don't have unemployment anymore. I can't live off of this. Now I have to find a job. And business owners that their businesses, I just think there's too much money in this right now for us to really get a feel for what that's going to be. And I think it won't hit us until.
I agree with that it's too early to really get a feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a story. Let's shift just a minute because we don't know what's coming, but we know change is coming. So tell me a story of 07 to 09 time period when everything kind of fell apart. And what did you do to shift? What did you do to pivot, whatever the word is, to do differently, if anything, to stay in the business, help build your business?
Well, I know my story is probably a little bit different than everyone else's, but I think it's kind of like I learned how to do REO foreclosures and short sales, and I was doing 2007, 2008, I was doing a whole bunch of BPOs, and you kind of got to be willing to do what other people aren't willing to do.
Yes.
I was selling whatever I could possibly sell, working with whomever I could possibly work with, and learned a new segment of business. So like during this downturn, I've gotten I'm working on my luxury home certification, so that I'll have another accreditation behind my name. So just I'm building up I'm making my website stronger so I can get more online leads. So learning, taking the extra time to learn and grow as opposed to just shrinking and dying, I think is a huge deal. Like just kind of buckle
That's
down
huge.
and do more work.
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, yeah, so it's not as easy as it was. Work harder. That's it, you know? And I can remember when people used to tease me, because I've always, like, my first year in the business, I sold 22 homes and made $150,000. You know, it wasn't like I needed to make $30 off doing broker price opinions, you know? But I was like doing 10 of them a week, and that's how I learned the market. That's how I kept up with the statistics on, you know, what's a good buy, what's a good value, and stayed on top of things. Every single morning, you should be looking at the hot sheet, especially if you're a new agent, knowing what the inventory is, and then saying, hey, that looks like a good deal. Why not reach out to somebody and try to buy it? So,
Totally agree with
or
that.
go take virtual tours. Like I used to, I read a book when I first started in the business, and they said, you know, if you don't have listings is how you get buyers and things like that. It's how you get a lot of leads. Well, if you don't have listings, choose a listing. Choose somebody else's listing that's a good deal that you want to sell. Talk to the agent and ask them if that's okay, that you help promote and sell their listing. 9 out of 10 agents are going to let you do that, you know? And so I would find a good deal, and my husband say, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to go sell this house today to somebody. It's a great deal. I'm going to go find someone to buy it. And that's what I did.
I love that. I love you said, do what others are not willing to do and continue to grow in these markets.
Now is probably not a good time to go door knocking. That's usually something
Only
that
with the
most
mask
people
and
don't wanna do.
So who wants to jump in?
Go to the
Susan,
stores
Karen?
and telemarketers lately.
Karen, what about you? We can't see you, so we can't see when you're ready to jump in.
Okay, I did a lot of work back in the 2007, 2008. I did a lot of foreclosures for BB&T. I was lucky enough that I was one of their agents, and so I would go look at homes that had been trashed and say, okay, here's what the market is for this home if we sell it trash, and here's what the market is if we sell it fixed up. And then I did all of their fixing up for the stuff. Had great time because, you know, some of the homes that were trashed were the $1 million homes. And so, you know, I'll go pick out appliances for this home. Yes, because they were all stolen. You know,
Yep.
but so we did a lot of that. But to me, the thing is, if you have a sphere, and what I'm finding is now, it's an easy time to reach out to people because you're just reaching out to say, how are you? And as you talk to people and you say, just wanted to check on you, wanted to see that you're okay. If you have done a good job for them before, they're calling. And we've started publishing those stats that Doug sends out, Doug Holmes stats. I just put it out on Facebook and Instagram the other day, the 497, and said, how's the market? It's hot. And we're going to continue to do that. I've gotten a lot of people who have said, wow, I had no idea. So it isn't a bad time to be.
Yeah, I think there's some fear. If they listen to the media, there's some fear that, you know, nothing's happening. And in fact, it's quite the opposite.
Right. So you just have to sit down, I think, also, and just talk real honestly with your sellers, if you're working with some sellers, in terms what will make you comfortable, you know, with your house. Do we just need to do it all virtually, or can people come in if we have worked out how they need to behave in the house and what you'll have ready? I'm finding I'm doing a lot more virtual tours that are very long because here I am opening the cabinets in the kitchen so you can see that, you know. Do you find yourself doing that too?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be that we made no films that were longer than 1.5 to 2 minutes, and suddenly we have a 5-minute video walking through a house so that you can see it all. Yeah, I mean, what about you, Susan? What do you find?
Well, yeah, I'm finding the same stuff. Really, one of the things is keeping in touch with my sphere. You know, back in the 2007, 2008, I didn't start doing foreclosures and REOs, and I didn't get involved in that. And that was probably a mistake on my part. So my business did go down tremendously, like a lot of people's. But the one thing that I think helped me survive was that, you know, the market was there was still a market there. People were, you know, they still had their jobs, some of them, and there were good deals. So I learned how to frame in my message. What message did I want to get out? You know, I would pick some stats, and this is, you know, for any agents that are out there, I'd pick some stats and know those off the top of my head. So when people ask me, you know, you would just spout them out, and it would be 1 or 2 things and make it positive. But I also kept in tight touch with my sphere, you know, giving them a call, sending them a message type of thing. We didn't have social media as much back then as we do today. And everybody's home, like Lisa said, everybody's home sitting on their computers. Social media is a great way to reach out. Be positive, be engaging, be
That's a big
caring,
one.
like Karen said. You know, care about your people. What are they hurting from? But also focus on the people who still do have jobs, because they're going to be the ones purchasing.
Exactly.
You know, you want to commiserate with the people that are struggling, but there's a lot of people out there that are not, that you need to stay in touch with too.
And those
Yes.
people will find new jobs. So it's good to reach out and commiserate a little bit, like you say. But I love that you said you frame the message. That's
Yeah.
key, is framing. And what great framework. I mean, Karen said the same thing. What great framework, I think, to say we just had a record number of homes go under contract last week in the middle of all this. That's framing the message.
Yeah, like if agents are on here that are listening, if they don't subscribe to Doug Holmes, the stats guy, it's only $10 a month. It's so worth it. He goes through all the stuff. He even gives you
Does the hard work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really just good information to kind of the Cliff Notes version of just doing all the research for you so you can stay on top of the market.
Oh, I
But
totally agree.
one thing that I do love Doug's stats, but of course it takes in the whole market. And so I think it's also when you're talking to people, there's a real difference between, you know, the houses that are going under contract and maybe your $1 million house that's sitting. I mean, so they do need to understand a lot of it is location and a lot of it is price point that you're playing in.
Yeah.
So I think perhaps at the higher level, you've got people that maybe are more impacted by the fact that the market has been so shaky. So they haven't lost their jobs, but they're you know, the fact that they had all that money in the stock market, it's not quite there anymore. Now it's coming back.
No one's taking cash. They're just waiting.
Yeah, it is having a big impact.
So I think it affects different parts of the market differently.
I agree.
You're right, because you guys are saying some things that, you know, I know that you're in Mount Pleasant. Karen, you're in James Island, Mount Pleasant area?
I'm downtown, but my office is in Mount
Downtown.
Pleasant. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
up in
where
Somerville, and so the median price point's a lot different. Some of my clients are, you know, dealing with different things even than what I'm hearing you guys say.
Yeah, that's why I like the spattering of agents, because Lisa, you're primarily in Mount Pleasant, I assume. Karen's downtown.
I'm really not primarily in Mount Pleasant, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I just assumed that.
I live in Mount Pleasant. I would love to stay in Mount Pleasant all the time, but we literally have properties all over. Like I have a listing in Somerville, Charleston National, Wild Dunes, Hanahan,
So
Goose
everywhere.
Creek, everywhere. Yeah, yeah.
Goose Creek even. And then, and Susan, you're mainly in Somerville, I would assume?
Yeah, mainly Somerville, but the north area. I mean,
North
Monk's
area,
Corner,
Goose Creek.
yeah.
Monk's Corner, yeah.
But
And
if you're an agent, for example, our office is in Mount Pleasant. I haven't lived downtown, but I don't see how agents can say, oh, I only am a Mount Pleasant agent, because half the activity is in Goose Creek and Somerville. So,
Yeah.
and you know,
Yeah.
if you've got people, that's where people are buying houses for the most part, because they're affordable for them.
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough to have, as I mentioned, I just had a sweet little house on James Island that was priced at $325, and I could have sold it 4 times over.
Yeah.
I find
That's a
Crowfield
great price point on James Island.
It is. It is. Yeah. I find Crowfield Plantation. People love Crowfield Plantation. So you have a decent house there, it goes.
Well, and statistically, the number of agents in Somerville sell less than 50% of the homes in the Somerville area. A lot of them are from agents outside of our area.
You're
Yeah, so
creeping
it's
in
just
So
on
you're,
me.
come on.
Come on up. So
What-
let me
what
shift
That's for
on.
Like,
GPS.
well, how many homes did you sell in my neighborhood? And I say, well, I've sold like 1 or 2 other ones, but I sell 50 to 100 homes a year. They can't all be in your neighborhood.
Right. I'm not invading
Sorry.
that one neighborhood. So I love the enthusiasm, and you're saying reach out to your sphere, etc., because I've talked to several newer agents who, you know, only got in the upswing, right? When times were really good and anyone could sell anything. And they're a little bit fearful right now. I mean, several of them that I've spoken to are a little bit fearful about reaching out because they don't want to sound salesy. And so what would you tell that agent?
Come from a place of service. You have to have a heart of service. You know, people need, they have real estate needs. You're going to be the person to fill them. You have to come with that attitude. You can't come with, the only thing I want from you is a sale. You know,
Right.
it's still relationship driven. This can go technology all the way, but it's still relationship driven.
It's just
So
helping people.
if you call and then you simply are saying, you know, there are not that many upsides about this virus, but one of them is I've got a little more time to reach out and touch base with people.
Yeah.
So I'm so thrilled to have an extra hour just to give you a call. And some of my other clients that I haven't had a chance to talk to in a while, how are you doing? How is this for you? You know, and if they've got kids running around, you can talk about that. It's just, I think there's lots of places just to touch people in a human way.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
And even, you know, I think this has also like made social media and electronics and technology even that much more important. And, you know, just because we can't see each other, like most of my business is from referrals. So just because we can't see each other in person and be at parties and networking events or whatever, there's a million groups now. Like I could probably be on some sort of Zoom call 24 hours a day, it seems like. There's just so many other opportunities to connect with people, and we just have to think outside the box, you know, and not just say, well, this is how we've always done it. Hey, go back to your 10 written note, write 10 written notes a day. Just wanted to know I was thinking about you. Mail it, you know. Things. Keely, my buyer's agent, she was just dropping off flowers at her clients' doors just to brighten their day. That's it. Just wanted to brighten your day. Here's some flowers, you know.
That's awesome.
That they're on your doorstep, you know.
She was doing the corn tips for a while there too.
Yeah, she had 30 days of Keely's corn tips. Yes. Which, I mean,
my
people are like,
goodness.
we're still waiting for your corn tips. You know, she's like, all right, it's been 30 days. I'm not doing it anymore. But staying on that, like we've been doing, so we've just been going to new construction neighborhoods where the house is vacant, but it's beautiful and staged, and just doing like model home Facebook Lives from there. And I've been getting, you know, people like, especially from New York, they'll see it and be like, how much does that house that you were showing down there? Like, I want to get
$2
out.
Guess what the
million
taxes
anymore.
are?
Yeah. No, like,
Yes.
True.
For $400,000 new house, and they're like, the taxes are that year, you know. So, just staying
Great stock picture.
relevant with those people, and getting into groups and like meeting other people in groups. I know there was like one Facebook group that was like good news during the coronavirus, and all kinds of different groups there are now, you know.
I know who started that one.
Yeah, could start networking with people on there. It's crazy to me how many times I meet someone and they say to me, you don't really know me, we've never met, but you're my friend on Facebook and I know all about you. I know the things you do. You guys have so much fun. You sell so much real estate. And that's the perception that I want people to have, to think of me first when it comes to real estate, you know.
They'll never guess that you beat your children.
I don't put any of that on there.
Some things don't go on Facebook.
So I have a question. Do you guys find, are you doing, when we do your virtual house tours and stuff, are you doing them as a set time? Like I'm doing a virtual open house, join me Sunday at 2:00, or do you just putting the virtual tours up, figuring that people will get to them when they want to?
When they want to is what I'm doing.
I'm doing like the Facebook Live, and then it stays on my page. And then I'm doing mad reports for all my listings now, even the little ones. I used to only do it for big houses and stuff, but now I'm just doing the mad reports and making sure that the buyers have seen the mad report if it's occupied, you know, before they go.
So that goes back to what you said before. Do things that other people aren't willing to do, even the little, you know, time-consuming tasks like that.
I mean, I've been showing, we've got some buyers right now that are looking in the $1 million range, and like agents have been there opening the doors with hand wipes, like letting their clients feel really safe and secure by being there Like, he's like, I've opened every closet door and turned on every light. You don't need to touch anything. And if that's what their comfort level is, then be that agent that does that. Like, if that's what you need
Sure.
to get $1 million listing, go freaking take your wet wipes over there. You know, like, you do it. That's what you got to do. You
I
know.
totally agree.
So
Totally agree. What about you, Susan?
What was the question?
Hanging on every word.
oh, advice. I think, was it advice for new buyers? Is that what we were?
Yeah, well, okay, let's just shift, and Susan, you can jump in first if you want to. So what would you tell a seller or a buyer today? Would it be anything different than you would have told them in January before all this hit? And what are you telling both a buyer and a seller?
Honestly, it's a great time. Rates are great. Inventory is low. So if you're selling, it's a great time to sell. I was saying for a couple of weeks that there were less buyers out there, but that's not true anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe 1 or 2 weeks that lasted. So yeah, don't be afraid to do something. We've got the precautions in place. Everybody, the attorneys, the lenders, everybody's, pivoted, and they've got all their systems in place to keep people safe. Other people are still buying and selling. And, if you have any questions or concerns, let's talk through it. Let me know what they are.
I think
How to
if
address
you're putting your house on the market, if you're a seller and I don't get that. At least the people I've been working with, they haven't been eager for their house to be on the market for a long time. So to me, this is obviously not the time to test the market in terms of, I think that the market, I could sell this house normally for $450, but I'm going to try $550 and see. I think you want to price very realistically. You want to push it a little bit, but price it to move, because that's fewer people coming through your house. I think that's been an effective point. I told people, I said, you want people to walk out of your house and say, what a great house. Gosh, it's priced well too. I better act, rather than I think I'll watch it come down.
Yes.
That's great advice.
And honestly, sellers are given a little bit more than they were. I mean, we're in a huge seller's market, but I'm finding that it's not as tough for the buyers because the sellers are wanting to go under contract fast.
They're a little concerned about what could come.
Yeah.
And having a good, solid buyer that has, the perfect person that's retired on a fixed income and can buy a house with that. They're like, you're going to go away there. You might lose some money in the stock market or whatever, but, or, people that have a solid job. I think that now your pre-approval letter kind of is even that much more weighted, I guess, than just somebody that could lose their job next week, so we're kind of looking at, from a listing standpoint, when we're getting offers, I'm kind of looking at all the boxes, not just the price, but is it better to take this person because they're not going to potentially lose a job in 2 weeks, or a cash buyer, cash buyers right now. That's like so good.
It is.
Because they're taking cash out of the market and putting it into a home. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still doesn't mean that you can get a foreclosure or flip for in a multiple offer situation for less, because there's a lot of people that still have cash, but,
exactly. No, that's good advice to help guide your seller to, which offer to take in a multiple offer situation, because it's more secure.
And really, really making sure the staging, I always do that anyways. Like, I want people's house to look the best. We always have a professional stager come in and tell them what to do and prepare their house for market. But that's even more important now than to just put it on and hope, that it's going to sell, having excellent photos. Everybody's starting their search on the internet now. So how you sell that house online and what your agent does for you for that is really important. So you need to be sure that they look great when they go on the market.
I agree.
There's no excuse.
Right. More so than ever,
Yeah.
I always believe that. And I always believe you should price your house to sell. But now I'm even more adamant about it. Like I've been saying. It's not like this is all new information. It's like, I'm really serious now.
So let me ask you this, because of the people losing their jobs, et cetera, as we come out of this, possibly more people put their home on the market. This is a question I get asked a lot. Should I buy now or should I wait? Because home prices may come down. What do you think? Are we going to see a dip in home prices or not?
I don't think anybody has a
so.
crystal ball. You don't think
Yeah,
so?
it's really
Not
hard to
my-
say.
Yeah, not up
I
here.
think-
Not in the Somerville area, honestly. I don't know about
And I think,
Yeah.
the
downtown.
illustration that you did, Jim, and in one of your Facebook lives before about, say the market goes down, what would you have it at, like 10% or something like that?
Yeah,
They
10%
buy a
drop.
$300,000 house now at the interest 270 and the interest rates go up, you're still better off buying now at 300.
See,
than
I
you would.
totally agree with that because right now we can get rates in the twos. Normally that's costing a little bit of discount, but we can still get rates in the twos. And 18 months ago, the average rate was 4.75. So if the Fed gets out of, if home prices do drop and they drop 10% from 300,000 to 270, you just saved $30,000. That's awesome. But it also means probably the Fed got out of supporting mortgage-backed securities and rates. So rates go back, and that's not unreasonable to think they go back to 4.75. When we did the math together, and your payment is $41 a month more, even though you save 30,000, even though you paid 30,000 less, as the interest rate. So I'm with you. I'm telling everybody, if you're going to be there for a while, don't worry about a short-term dip in prices. Go ahead and lock in these rates.
Yeah,
Because
I agree.
we really don't know what will happen. I mean, but we know that the demand for our area is not going away. So while you have, of course, your in-town people that are moving, I think as we've all alluded to, we have a lot of calls and a lot of people coming from the Northeast. And I think a lot of people are thinking, I don't know that I necessarily need to live in New York City or Boston right now. I mean, think how hard they have been hit. My goodness. So
There'll be an exodus from New York City.
I think there will be, you know, and you know, we're happy to help them. You know, so I do think we remain a hot place.
We do.
People want to come. To me, what we're still dealing with downtown is more concerns about flooding. So, I mean, that's the thing that we're still dealing with. That's the first question everybody asks me. Has this house ever had water in it? You know?
Is it really?
Oh yeah, big time. Flood insurance is expensive. And
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, any parting thoughts as we kind of, I'd like to kind of wrap, but let's go around and just hear any final thoughts on the market, on marketing, on, especially if you were mentoring a newer agent who hasn't seen a market shift. What's your final thought?
For the newer agents that haven't seen a market shift, really be aware of where your head's at and your own fear and anxiety. Because if you have that fear and anxiety yourself of what's going to be happening, it's going to portray in everything you do, no matter how positive you try and be. So work on that. Get yourself around other people. Get yourself in a mastermind. Get yourself in some of the groups Lisa was talking about. You know, learn a message, frame your message, and just know that persistence pays off. We're all going to be selling houses a year from now. We're going to look back the same way we did in 2011 and 12, going, wow, that was a rough time, or that was certainly different. But stay with it.
I love that. Especially, so that speaks to who you hang out with, right? If an agent is hanging by the water cooler or whatever, virtual water cooler, with a bunch of other agents, they're like, man, this market sucks, this market's terrible. I think I would take your recommendation to part ways and get a different group.
Definitely. And there's groups out there. And if you need some recommendations, reach out to any of us.
So many groups.
Yeah.
But also, the thing is, I think also it's kind of like, I remember of James Carville, keep it simple, stupid. Kind of, and it's true. I mean, basically, I get overwhelmed sometimes by technology. I'm not great at it. You know, I hire a social media person who makes me look much better than I am. So I leverage that. But basically, it's simply treating your clients and touching base with them so that if you stay in touch with them, they're going to think of you because you did a good job for them. So if you just pick up the phone, and I know that's scary for people, but if you just pick up the phone and reach out to folks, or send them a note, or send them a little something that say, yeah, I was just thinking of you. Things percolate, don't you find?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a relationship business for sure.
Yeah, it is.
And you know, that's what I really see this a lot in new agents and different companies that, you know, teach, okay, just, you know, cold call. But people are way more likely to, 9 times out of 10, people, all things being the same, people are going to buy from you because they like you, right? So be a professional at your job, but also be a friend to that person and have them want to refer you and like to work with you. You know, I made a little list from your questions, so I'll read those. Those are my final thoughts. I said, learn something new. Like I did BPOs and REO, foreclosures and short sales. Like this time I'm doing luxury home certification. I also am working really hard on getting better internet leads and focused on that when I had the extra time. Always be willing to do what other people aren't willing to do. Go be the person who takes the wet wipes to the $1 million listing for every single showing and open every single door. That's what it takes to get the client. You just have to have a shift in your mentality and know, like, there's serious buyers and sellers out there, and the people that are in the market now are serious. So go find them. And people online, engage in groups and build your sphere of influence. Work on building your social sphere of influence. Really manage your expenses. I don't think that's anything that we really talked about, but it was perfect timing actually. My credit card that was on all those auto pays expired. And so I started getting all these notifications. I was like, what is that $20 for? And what is this $20 for? It all really starts to add up. You know, if you're spending a whole bunch of money on Zillow leads, take a good look at that. And maybe you could just be spending more time focusing on actually engaging with people on social media and commenting and liking and talking to them and saying that's such a beautiful baby or whatever it is. No politics. And now,
Yes.
no COVID-19 information.
Exactly.
No mask shaming, no nothing, no whether or not you're going to wear a mask. I mean, I'm surprised I'm out here in the woods, really, to take my mask off just to do this. Yeah, there we go.
I have mine when I'm in the car, and the one thing I have changed, I don't put people in my car. I have them meet me.
Follow behind, yeah.
That's
Follow
interesting.
behind. And
Yeah.
that's a real different way of doing business for me. But
Yeah.
it just.
And I'm not sure I'm going to put them back in my car this year. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, it probably gives them time to, if there's a couple following you, it gives them time to talk about the last house a little bit more, maybe. I don't know, I'm just imagining, but maybe it's not a bad thing at all.
Well, it used to be nice to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to say,
that's
I
true.
miss those conversations, and you have to work at them while you're in the house,
Right.
socially distant. But yeah, it just isn't worth it. That seems to me like I'm asking for it if I have you in my car.
Yeah.
There's no way you can help but breathe the same air.
You know, it's funny. My daughter, she's 19. She just got her real estate license, and I'm in Hilton Head. I just opened. I joined the MLS down here. I opened a brokerage down here, so we own a place in the RV resort. We came down for my birthday, and my $1 million buyers wanted to see 3 houses today. She's a surgeon. It was like the only thing, and I was like, "Well, do you mind if my daughter shows you?" And
That's
so
awesome.
she's so excited. She's like, "What am I going to do? What am I supposed to say?" And I was like, "Just ask questions. Ask them. What do you think about the kitchen? What do you think about this?" I said, that's how you gather information. And I notice a lot of times with new agents and new buyers, they're almost afraid to ask questions. And I was just listening on the luxury home certification thing. It's like finding out how people are going to finance it. What's important to them? Is the closing time important to them? Is their closing cost important to them? Those are all real questions that you have to ask. And this is like everyday stuff anyways, not even without the COVID, you know, but
Mhm.
fine tune those skills as a new agent for sure. And just ask more questions so that when if you're not with them all the time, like, cause we're social distancing and we're doing everything via email, ask questions.
The other
It
thing I
helps
would,
too to structure the deal
yeah,
when you ask questions. So you know what's important to them. So
Right.
you can structure the best deal for them.
Yes.
well, the other thing I find, 2 things. I always ask people, gosh, you've probably been looking online. Why don't you send me the houses that really caught your eye? And that way I'll know your taste. As opposed to being threatened by the fact that they've been online, use it to your advantage and
I
have
love
them
that.
show you. And then the other thing I do is I try very hard to, obviously, if you're working in a deal, the agent is protecting their side of the deal and you're protecting your people. But you get to a point where if you have a good relationship that you've established with that agent, I've held more deals together because the other agent and I were working together as opposed to trying to undercut each other or anything like that. And I think we need to do that a lot in these days because it
And that is,
takes
oh my
goodwill.
gosh, I'm so glad you said that. It's so important now. And I mean, when I get a new agent, they always say, well, I didn't know what to do. Who do I call about this? I'm like, did you call the listing agent? Like, they know all those answers.
Start there.
You know, like, your job is to work together, you know, and sell stuff. It's not to be, you know, rivals here. You know, I think people lose, like, a lot of, and I hate to say it, like, I see it all the time in new agents because I try not to throw everybody in the same bucket or whatever, but a lot of times they're just like adversaries as opposed to working together to try to make a deal work. And just like Karen said, hey, look,
And everybody suffers when they are adversarial like that. It's the seller does, the buyer does, everybody does. So it comes back to being a relationship business. It's also a relationship with that other agent on the other side of the deal.
And I have found over the years, and I don't know if you guys have seen this too, but the agents that come into the business and can't get over or move past that adversarial mindset, they don't last. They get burnt out because that's just a hard way to sell real estate.
Yeah, like an ulcer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have people that you look at and you think, I don't want to do business with them because I know they're going to be difficult.
Yes, or their buyer isn't qualified. It's going to fall through. It's going to be a shaky deal. Or never going to get responses. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Reputation.
Your personal reputation is important.
It is. Guys, I think this was an awesome call. What I got out of it was frame the message, have the right mindset, manage expenses, and do things that you wouldn't be willing to do previously in order to grow. And really the most important thing I heard was relationships are what the foundation is of this whole business and building and growing.
Yep.
I think it was awesome. Thank you guys.
For inviting us.
Yeah, I think it was. I hope
Jim.
everyone listening really took some good notes because it was great stuff.
I'm going to go back to my pool party now.
Awesome.
Happy birthday, Lisa.
Sounds good.
Happy birthday.
See you all soon. All right,
Bye.
Thank you. All right, bye guys.